Excerpt 17. Always using the practice of the 6 paramitas of giving, precept observation, patience, diligence, meditative concentration, and wisdom, he taught and transformed beings to help them steadfastly establish a Bodhi mind. Always means forever and never changing. One should follow these 6 principles at all times. The first paramita is giving. For us, this means letting go and helping others. There are 3 kinds of giving: the giving of wealth, the giving of teachings, and the giving of fearlessness. Giving is a karmic cause. If we want to have wealth, we should practice the giving of wealth. If we want to be intelligent and wise, we should practice the giving of teachings. If we wish to have good health and a long life, we should practice the giving of fearlessness. In the giving of fearlessness, the most important thing is not to harm any being. In addition to not killing beings, we should not even cause them to have afflictions. A vegetarian diet is a form of the giving of fearlessness. We do not eat the flesh of animals or cause them to have afflictions. To be more proactive, we should free captured animals. I was supposed to be a person with little good fortune and a short lifespan. But I have lived to this age and my good fortune seems to increase year by year. Both are the rewards from my learning the Buddha's teaching and practicing it accordingly in this lifetime. One should not enjoy the good fortune oneself, because one will use it up very quickly. When one has good fortune, one should share it with others. This way, one's good fortune will never be used up. This is the truth. As I gained more wisdom, I saw the ins and outs of everything more clearly than before. Thus, I was able to do things that benefited others in a more appropriate and perfect way. Moreover, I did not ask to have my life extended, but it was. This is true freedom. In the Bodhisattva practice, giving is listed first. My rewards from the 3 kinds of giving can be clearly seen by everyone. The second paramita is precept observation. We should observe the precepts and codes of behavior that the Buddha laid out. The teachings in the sutras that the Buddha earnestly and patiently taught us should be followed too. We should also abide by the laws and customs of our countries. If we abandon the precepts, then the practice and upholding of the Buddha's teachings will disappear. So even if we lecture on the Dharma, and study and discuss it every day, it will be futile. Why? Because our lives are disconnected from the teachings. We are not applying what we are learning. No matter how profoundly or how well we can lecture on Buddhism, nothing will be achieved. That is why Buddhism has always emphasized practice. The Buddha taught 3 cumulative pure precepts. 3 cumulative means 3 main categories. The first category is uphold precepts and codes of behavior. This encompasses all the teachings that the Buddha taught in the sutras. We should practice all that the Buddha wants us to do, and not otherwise. The second category is uphold precepts by practicing virtuous dharmas. A deed that is good should be done. A deed that is bad should not be done. We should know that the spirit of the precepts is to prevent wrongdoing or stop evil conduct. It helps us to end wrongdoings and to practice virtuous conduct. Even though the Buddha did not list everything we should or should not do, we need to adhere to the spirit of his teachings. For example, the Buddha did not tell us not to smoke, but we know that smoking is not good for us or for others. Therefore, we should not smoke. Things of this nature fall under uphold precepts by practicing virtuous dharmas. The third category is uphold precepts by bringing lasting benefits to all sentient beings. When a deed benefits beings, we should do it. There are 3 kinds of beneficial deeds. The first kind is the deed that will bring immediate benefit but will have a harmful effect in the future. This kind of deed should not be done. The second kind is the deed that will bring benefit not only now but also in the future. This kind of deed is truly beneficial. The third kind is the deed that will not bring immediate benefit but will bring great benefit in the future. This kind of deed is also beneficial. This shows that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas look far ahead, not only at the immediate future. The third paramita is patience. To accomplish any undertaking, one needs to bear any hardship that one encounters. In the process of cultivation, one will surely encounter frustration. The more diligent one is, the greater the amount of frustration one faces. Why is there so much frustration? Because of the evil karmas that one has committed over countless kalpas. Obstacles from karmic forces are unavoidable. The only solution is to tolerate any hardship. This will decrease karmas. If one has meditative concentration, it can eliminate karmas. One should face obstacles with wisdom, resolve them with forbearance, acquiesce, and make diligent progress. Only with the paramita of patience will one be able to improve. If one is not patient, one will encounter obstacles. The fourth paramita is diligence. The Chinese term for diligence is jingjin. Jing means pure and unadulterated, and jin means making progress. For bodhisattvas, diligence is their only good route. Nowadays, many Buddhist practitioners make the mistake of learning too many different things, resulting in a mixture. Although they make progress every day, their progress is adulterated. They spend a lot of time and effort, but their accomplishment is very limited. The little achievement I have in this lifetime is due to having a good teacher. He forbade me to proceed in an unfocused and random way. I learned from Mr. Li Bingnan in Taichung for 10 years. His teaching method was that even if a student was very smart and had an exceptional capability, he or she could simultaneously learn only 2 sutras at most. If the student wanted to learn 3 sutras at one time, he would not teach this. Students who did not have a good capability learned only 1 sutra. Only when Mr. Li considered that a student had learned a sutra well enough would he teach the student a new one. Otherwise, he would not allow the student to learn a new sutra. During my 10 years with Mr. Li, I learned 5 sutras. Whereas in a Buddhist college, the students study more than 5 sutras in one semester. The first sutra I learned was the Sutra on Ananda, asking about the good fortune and misfortune of learning the Buddha's teachings. The second was the Amitabha Sutra. The third was the chapter of the vows and practices of Samantabhadra. The fourth was the Diamond Sutra. And the fifth was the Sarangama Sutra. I spent 10 years learning only these sutras. Mr. Li's criterion was that only when one learned one sutra well enough could one learn a new one. Well enough meant that the student could explain the sutra thoroughly on stage to an audience. When the student lectured on stage, Mr. Li would sit in the last row. Without using a microphone, the student had to talk loud enough for Mr. Li to hear. Heading toward one direction and one goal, his students were thus laying a good foundation and would naturally understand the other sutras. When one masters one sutra, one naturally masters all sutras. The question is whether one has truly learned and understood the sutra and entered into the states described in the sutra. The fifth paramita is meditative concentration. It means being in control of one's mind. Within, the mind is unmoved. Without, the mind is not attached to phenomena. One should not be easily tempted by any external phenomena. For example, when one learns a sutra, one concentrates on this sutra. This way, one would be in control of one's mind. The sixth paramita is wisdom. Simply put, when one interacts with people and engages in tasks, one should do so based on reason, not on emotions. This excerpt teaches us the 6 principles for interacting with people and engaging in tasks in daily life. These are also the guidelines that bodhisattvas use in teaching and transforming beings to help them be steadfastly established in the Bodhi mind. Excerpt 18. Brings forth the Bodhi mind, observes all the precepts, firmly abides in them without any transgression, brings abundant benefits to sentient beings, and offers them all the good roots that one has cultivated to help them attain peace and happiness. This excerpt sets the standard, throughout our lives, for interacting with people and engaging in tasks. Bodhi is Sanskrit, meaning enlightenment. Bringing forth the Bodhi mind means bringing forth the mind to attain enlightenment and be free of confusion and delusion. An ordinary being is called an ordinary being because such a person is confused and deluded. The excerpt also teaches us to interact with people and engage in tasks with a sincere mind. We should not deceive them or act falsely. Sincerity is the Bodhi mind. The Visualization Sutra talks about a mind of the utmost sincerity. This is the noumenon of the Bodhi mind. How can one be truly free of confusion or delusion? Let us observe a truly awakened person. This person has a clear understanding of him or herself as well as the living environment. Understanding is awakening. What is the standard for understanding? The Buddha was a truly awakened person. He is our standard. The Buddha said that the truth of this world is suffering, emptiness, and impermanence. This is the truth of this mundane world. No one can escape from this. This world is filled with suffering, is empty in nature, and is impermanent. We must clearly understand this. When we do, we should abandon suffering, emptiness, and impermanence in this world and seek the state of permanence, joy, true self, and purity. Achieving this, we are truly awakened. The state of permanence, joy, true self, and purity is the state of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Buddhism talks about understanding the cycle of birth and death and transcending the 3 realms. When one clearly understands the truth of life and death and of transmigration within the 6 paths, one is an awakened person. When one understands the truth, the next step is transcending the 6 paths and freeing oneself from samsara. This is what Buddhas and Bodhisattvas do. When one is clear about the truth, how should one cultivate? When the Buddha was in this world, which was during the Dharma perfect age, people had high capacities and the majority could succeed in any method that they chose to practice. After the Buddha's time, during the Dharma semblance age, people did not have as high a capacity as earlier. With that, the quality of the Buddha's teachings gradually deteriorated as they were passed down. But it was not that the sutras had degenerated. Rather, it was the lecturer's interpretation of the sutras that had worsened. As time went by, the lectures on the Dharma became more and more incorrect. Now it is the Dharma ending age, more than 3,000 years after the Buddha's parinirvana. The deterioration has reached a point where we do not know what to do. It gets more and more difficult for us to attain realization from learning and practicing Buddhism. 3,000 years ago, the Buddha knew completely what was going to happen in society today. He did not fail those of us who truly sought transcendence, who truly sought enlightenment. The Buddha, in the Great Collection Sutra, said that in the Dharma perfect age, one could succeed in cultivation by observing the precepts. In the Dharma semblance age, one could succeed in cultivation by practicing meditative concentration. And in the Dharma ending age, one could succeed in cultivation by learning the Pure Land method. The Buddha was telling us, the people of today, that we will definitely succeed in our cultivation if we learn and practice the Pure Land method. The Dharma ending age lasts 10,000 years. 1,000 years have passed, and there are 9,000 years to go. The Infinite Life Sutra says that at the end of that 9,000 years, the Dharma will be lost to our mundane world. The Infinite Life Sutra, however, will remain in this world for another 100 years. At the end of that 100 years, even the Infinite Life Sutra will also be lost to the world. But there will still exist the 6 syllables, Namo Amituofo. From this we can see the inconceivable merit of Namo Amituofo. The people who live after the Dharma ending age will be able to attain liberation by relying on Namo Amituofo. Today, we have a better chance. Great Master De Chuo of the Tang dynasty was a patriarch of the Pure Land School. During his lifetime, he lectured only on the 3 Pure Land Sutras. And he did so more than 200 times. From this we can see that practicing and propagating only one Dharma door is the perfect Bodhi mind. To understand the cycle of birth and death, one must first know that life is filled with suffering, and that the suffering in future lifetimes will become even worse than in the current lifetime. If one does not want to be reborn in the human path, can this wish be fulfilled? Unless one mindfully chants the Buddha name and seeks rebirth in the Western Pure Land, one's wish may not be fulfilled. Therefore, one must be determined to attain rebirth there in this lifetime. This is the true Bodhi mind. When one has an awakened mind, one's behavior also needs to be awakened. In other words, one should lead the life of an awakened person. In daily life, when one interacts with people and engages in tasks, one's every thought should be awakened, not deluded. The following sutra text is the Buddha's teaching of the correct activities and practice for the bodhisattvas in this world. In observe all the precepts, firmly abide in them without any transgression. The meaning of observing the precepts, in a broad sense, is abiding by laws and the codes of behavior. The spirit of the precepts is do nothing that is bad and do everything that is good. Do nothing that is bad is the spirit of the Theravada precepts. Do everything that is good is the spirit of the Bodhisattva precepts. There are various levels for good and bad. For example, in the 5 vehicles of Buddhism, there are 5 levels: the human vehicle, the heavenly vehicle, the sound hearer vehicle, the Pratyekabuddha vehicle, and the Bodhisattva vehicle. The humans and heavenly beings are still within the 3 realms and have not yet transcended the cycle of rebirth. The sound hearers and the Pratyeka Buddhas have truly transcended transmigration within the 6 paths. The perfect Dharma, however, is founded on being a good human being. If one is not a good person, how can one become a Buddha? Where should one start with learning Buddhism? One starts with learning to be a good person. The Visualization Sutra teaches the 3 conditions. The first condition includes being filial to and providing and caring for parents, being respectful to and serving teachers, being compassionate and not killing any living beings, and cultivating the 10 virtuous karmas. This first condition is the basis for being a good person. The 5 precepts are the fundamental precepts, which Buddhas and Bodhisattvas also abide in. When we expand the scope of the precepts, we have laws. All the laws, moral values, and customs of our countries should be followed. They are all within the scope of the precepts. In addition, we should control our sensual desires. We should firmly abide by the precepts and not transgress them. This is do nothing that is bad. The spirit of the Theravada precepts brings abundant benefits to sentient beings, describes a Mahayana precept. Sentient beings encompasses not only people but also animals and plants. Abundant benefits refers to not just the most abundant, but also the highest benefits. We should do our best to perform deeds that will benefit others. Maybe there is a limit to what we can do, But if we perform deeds with a sincere, respectful, and pure mind and with patience, we will have the support of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Our wishes will surely be fulfilled. The Buddha said, all dharmas are created by the mind. When we think about a matter that will benefit others, every moment of every day, never forgetting it, then this matter will be successfully accomplished. If we think, this is so difficult, I cannot do it, forget it, then this matter will not be accomplished. Why? Because when we stop thinking of benefiting others, we stop generating energy. Thoughts will truly generate inconceivable energy. This is continual mindfulness. When one understands this principle, one sees that those who are mindful of Buddha will attain Buddhahood. A practitioner who chants the Buddha name will definitely attain rebirth in the Western Pure Land. This is also the same principle. When one mindfully chants Amma Tuofo and is mindful of the Western Pure Land, being diligently mindful without any interruption, then Amitabha Buddha will definitely come to one. We should wholeheartedly do things that will bring true, vast and great benefits to all beings. We must ensure that this thought does not cease. Offer them all the good roots that one has cultivated to help them attain peace and happiness teaches us to broaden our minds. Before we began to learn Buddhism, we used to always think of ourselves, our happiness and our families. We seldom thought about the country or society. This means that we were not broad-minded. After we began to learn Buddhism, we read about the great vows of Amitabha Buddha, whose state of mind encompasses the entire Dharma realm. That is the perfect manifestation of the true mind. We should learn this. In doing any deed, no matter how small, one should dedicate the merit accrued to all beings, wishing that all suffering beings could leave suffering behind and attain happiness. This is a form of Dharma offerings, by giving of ourselves for all beings. One does not personally enjoy the good fortune one has cultivated but shares it with all beings. This is the meaning of dedication. One shares one's wisdom, good fortune, skills, and abilities with all beings, wishing that all beings could have peace and happiness. This is a bodhisattva practice. Can this be done? Yes. If one truly practices, others will benefit. If these people are about to encounter a disaster, and there is someone who has great good fortune and merits, either they will not encounter the disaster or the severity of the disaster will be reduced. To help avert world disasters, we must earnestly learn and practice. All we need to do is sincerely do our best, with our every thought of doing it for the suffering beings. We will definitely not want to enjoy the merits accrued but offer them universally to all beings. Bodhisattvas are courageous and diligent. Where do they get their energy from? From this thought of great compassion, they work for all beings, not for themselves. An awakened person will surely behave this way. If one does not behave this way and thinks of oneself and one's family, or even a small group of people, one is not awakened. One's mind is still very narrow. An awakened person would undoubtedly have a very broad mind.